Welcome to Rikisa's Space Race 2.0 series, where today's episode is a high-stakes thriller orbiting around the Boeing Starliner. I'm Michael.
And I'm Alex. Today's episode smells a lot like the 1960s space race. From overheating thrusters to a tangled web of international and corporate politics, we're here to unravel the drama. And this time, it's not just nations. It's also companies battling it out.
We've got the usual suspects, the United States and Russia, but now we've also got China and private space cowboys Boeing, SpaceX, and Blue Origin.
Let's now orbit around Boeing's struggles with their Starliner spacecraft. The Starliner is stuck to the International Space Station since June 5th, like a stubborn barnacle. Its mission had to last in 7 days. Its current status? No return date. Overheating thrusters, a broken-down spacecraft, and a ticking clock until the next crew arrives mid-August 2024.
Boeing struggles with their Starliner spacecraft. It's been plagued by glitches and malfunctions since 2019, and it's starting to look like poor quality control. The company is facing a critical deadline to safely return astronaut heroes Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore from the International Space Station.
And let's not forget, the ISS is a delicate international collaboration. One wrong move, and it could all come crashing down. While the official narrative is all about technical glitches, there's a whiff of something more sinister in the air. Overheated thrusters. Sounds like a cover-up for something bigger.
And get this, no one's talking about the astronauts' ages. Butch is 61, Sunita is 58, and one astronaut on the station, Michael Barat, is 65.
It's a slap in the face to commercial airlines that refuse to hire pilots over 50. These astronauts are proof that age is just a number when it comes to mental and physical capabilities.
One strange thing, though, is that no one is mentioning whether these heroes are actually in the station or stuck in the capsule when it tried to take off.
And let's talk about the docking situation that no one seems to be addressing. The station is divided into the US side, the Russian side, and the connecting nodes. If the Starliner is hogging one docking port, it limits the options for a rescue.
The Starliner is stuck at the Harmony node at the US section of the ISS. If they need a rescue capsule, it has to dock there too. The other available nodes for crew are on the Russian side.
And it's not just stuck. It's a hot mess of overheated thrusters and malfunctioning gear. One of those thrusters seems to be actually broken and refuses to reactivate. There's a very slight chance that more thrusters could fail after undocking, putting the crew and the ISS itself at risk.
But before we go any further, every news outlet is talking about thrusters and not going into deeper details. We need to go deeper into the history, logistics, process, and so on.
Let's start with logistics. The ISS zips around Earth every 90 minutes, completing 16 orbits in 24 hours. That's 16 sunrises and sunsets in a single day. Capsules bringing supplies and crew have to actually run after it and catch it, while it's moving with 17,000 miles per hour. That's insane. It is like catching a bullet with another bullet, or threading a needle while riding a roller coaster.
It takes several hours to dock and undock a capsule. And those thrusters? These babies are basically the muscles of the spacecraft. They control orientation, altitude, and even docking. Imagine trying to park a car without power steering. That's what it's like up there.
Now let's rewind a bit. What the ISS even is. On paper, it's a beacon of global unity, a symbol of peaceful collaboration. In reality, it's a geopolitical chessboard disguised as a science lab.
It's not just a space station, it's a political alliance in low Earth orbit. Born out of a post-Cold War era, the ISS was meant to symbolize a new era of cooperation between former adversaries. Other nations joined in later.
Russia had a monopoly on space stations since 1971, with 10 stations, including the infamous Mir. Their space program was practically an orbiting empire. Meanwhile, the US had only one, Skylab, which was occupied for a mere 24 weeks between 1973 and 1974.
Enter 1984. Reagan's grand idea of space station freedom. Sounds like a blockbuster, right? Except it stalled faster than you can say budget cuts. freedom was stuck in development purgatory until 1993.
A declassified memo from April 2009 of the National Security Council shows that on June 15, 1993, President Clinton decided to open up the project to Russia. And in December 1993, the United States officially invited Russia to become a full partner in the creation of the ISS.
Instead of building weapons in space, Russian scientists will help us to build the International Space Station.
Suddenly, it wasn't just the US and Russia. A whole gang of 14 nations, from Canada to Japan, were in on the space party. The Clinton administration used the ISS as a tool of foreign diplomacy. This not only shared the financial burden, but also provided scientists from around the world with an opportunity to conduct research in space. However, some theorists argue that the ISS is more than just a symbol of international cooperation. They claim that it's a hub for espionage and surveillance.
Okay, it all started on November 20th, 1998, with the launch of the Russian control module Zarya. The US-built Unity connecting node followed a month later.
In mid-2000, the Russian-built module Zvezda was added, providing a habitat and control center for the station. The first resident crew arrived on November 2, 2000. These were Russian cosmonauts Sergei Krikalev and Yuri Gidzenko, and American astronaut William Shepard.
Fast forward to 2007, when the European-built American node, Harmony, was placed on the end of Destiny. Harmony has a docking port for the space shuttle and connecting ports for a European laboratory, Columbus, and a Japanese laboratory, Kibo.
So, Russia controls all major functions, including navigation. The Western side, on the other hand, is a mix of American, European, and Japanese modules.
The ISS isn't just a floating lab. It's a diplomatic playground where Russia and the US play their cosmic hand. And guess what? China has been banned even to visit the station since 2011.
So the Harmony node, or Node 2, is like Grand Central Station, connecting various modules and systems, making it an indispensable part of the station's infrastructure.
Harmony is like a diplomatic handshake, but with more zero-gravity floating. You see, the ISS is as much a product of politics as it is of science.
And with Boeing Starliner currently stuck there, this handshake has been complicated. Now here's where things get spicy. The contract between Russia and the US for ISS operations is set to expire in 2024. But wait, Russia hasn't signed an extension yet, and NASA's keen on keeping the ISS operational until 2030. That's a long time to be stuck in space limbo.
So, this mission extension for further testing sounds more like a stalling tactic to me. Are they buying time for a secret handshake with Roscosmos?
And it's not just about Russia. On one hand, we've got a Western-led operation, and on the other, the Russian-controlled side. Harmony is the bridge, literally and figuratively, between them. Right now, the Boeing Starliner is hanging in the balance, waiting for a resolution.
Feeling lost in the political labyrinth of the ISS? Confused about this whole situation? Then head over to Kizoku Media. The masters of strategy and critical intelligence will teach you to ask the right questions. Like, who benefits in all this?
And guess what you'll find? Russia's planning its own new station, China's got theirs, the US and all other countries are stuck on the old 1998 station without navigation access. Russia's holding all the cards.
To become a master strategist and critically intelligent, visit Kizoku Media. You'll never see international space politics the same way again.
And that's why we're here, to cut through the noise, analyze the data, and ask the tough questions. Because when it comes to the space race, there's always more than meets the eye.
Remember when the US imposed sanctions on Russia in 2014?
Oh yeah, Dmitry Rogozin, the then Director General of Roscosmos, said that Russia will not help US astronauts, and the US should bring them to and from the ISS on a trampoline.
Here's where it gets juicy. Fast forward to March 2022. When the West hit Russia with new sanctions, Rogozin was like a space-era version of a soap opera villain, publicly blasting the West and threatening the ISS partnership. And then, plot twist. The Kremlin decided to give Rogozin the boot on July 15, 2022. Why? Officially, because he was too abrasive with Western partners.
Wait, what? Considering Russia's history with the ISS, it's hard not to see this as a high-stakes chess move. And then there's the pièce de résistance. We grounded our space shuttles in 2011. Can you believe that? We were completely reliant on the Russians to get our astronauts to space. It's like outsourcing your national security to your biggest geopolitical rival.
It's like saying, "Hey Russia, you're our ride to work now." And then, fast forward to 2020, we finally get our own ride back. But guess who's the driver? A private company, SpaceX.
But what's shocking is that Boeing is getting a whopping $4.6 billion for the Starliner project, despite a string of failures. Meanwhile, SpaceX is getting a measly $2.6 billion, despite its impressive track record of reliability and speed.
That's right. The Boeing Starliner program has been plagued by delays, technical issues, and even failed uncrewed test flights. They went in the wrong orbit. I have to say it twice. They went in the wrong orbit. And yet, NASA is still throwing billions of dollars at them. So, it's Boeing versus SpaceX. It's the ultimate David and Goliath story. It's a corporate space opera, complete with villains, heroes, and government funding.
Yeah, let's not forget the shady tactics. There are whispers of Boeing planning negative articles about SpaceX. Imagine spending millions on PR firms to badmouth your competition instead of, fixing your spaceship.
So, what's next? Will Boeing turn things around? Will SpaceX continue to dominate? And will Russia decide to extend their ISS lease or leave us all in orbit limbo?
Without Russia's expertise, there's no way on Earth, or above it, that anyone can take care of the ISS like them. It will be like a driver saying, "Hey, I might just take the next exit and leave you all to figure out how to drive this thing with 17,000 miles per hour."
And it's not just about getting to the ISS. We're talking lunar landers, Mars missions, and beyond. The next decade will be thrilling as new players join the fray and the competition heats up. Absolutely. The barriers to entry are lowering, and that's great news for everyone. Well, maybe not for Boeing's PR team, but for the rest of us. The private sector is stepping up. Whether it's through reusable rockets, lunar landers, or dreaming of Mars, the next decade is going to be one wild ride.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Space Race 2.0. We'll be following the developments and hoping everything plays out well for the heroic astronauts Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore, caught in the middle of this game.
Until next time, stay curious, stay skeptical, and remember, in space, nothing is as it seems.